moderator of the first session is Professor Anil Kashyap. Anil Kashyap is the first president and chancellor of NICMAR University, Pune and Hyderabad. Dr. Kashyap has been head of UEE Bristol School of Geography and Environmental Management, deputy head of Coventry University School of Energy, Environmental and Construction, and founding professor and director of Rick School of Real Estate before joining NICMAR. Dr. Kashyap is an alumnus of Harvard University with training in higher education leadership and change management. He is a fellow of the Higher Education Academy of the United Kingdom. Dr. Kashyap has been chartered member of RICS and also Royal Town Planning Institute, Hyderabad. He is a fellow of Higher Education Academy, UK, and fellow of Institute of Town Planners, India. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite Professor Kashyap.
Good morning, all the distinguished guests. Before I invite the panelists, I have certain welcome remarks and the context setting for this session. And I would like to begin with lots of context setting by Dr. Agarwal, and I do concur with you, sir, with a number of things from my own experience, and I have been sort of advocating here in higher education, and few, just to mention about your observation about US university system, where education and industry, they go hand in hand. It's not industry-led education. It has to be, education has to lead industry and come up with innovations. That's the ambition and the wish for my lifetime, that here in Indian industry, in education system, if we are able to achieve that, where we tell industry that what is to be done as research, as innovation. Few other things about the leadership as well, that, if you put your neck on the line with the innovative ideas, obviously tough job, but it will be recognized and it will be seen as your leadership step. Also, taking this particular theme of partnership, where the title is public-private partnership, we have got all the private universities. When we talk about public-private partnership, whether we are talking about collaborations or the partnerships, what can enhance the research landscape, I think latter fits in very well. And these partnerships we talk about are not really alien to our education system. If we look at our ancient education system, where the partnerships in the form of universities like Nalanda or Takshila, where the scholarly ideas were exchanged and there was a collaboration between the scholars and developing new knowledge and exchange of knowledge and spread of that has happened many years ago. And I think we are here to progress on those lines. If we look at the definition of collaboration or partnership, it is not just only the industry partnership we are talking about. There are more areas where globally, other than industry academia partnership, where universities work with leading industries, computers or mechanical or other discipline areas or focus areas, where both knowledge are combined and something new is produced. That is something which is we are looking forward in today's world as well. Also, public-private partnership when the government agencies or the public sector agencies, be it the Department of Health, Department of Industries, even, for example, agriculture research or genome research, they approach the academia in order to get certain tests and validations and clinical trials and all those things in place before launching any new product into the service of mankind. Also, there are examples of non-profit organizations partnering with academic institutions. Non-profit foundations like Gates Foundation or, there are other philanthropy agencies here in India as well. They partner with universities and also produce something which is tangible and which is applicable for the communities and mankind. Community-based partnerships also are quite important and should not be overlooked because of the participatory type of approach and research, where lots of community bodies and they come up with particularly in social science areas, behavioral science areas, where lots of these partnerships with the local government, the municipalities or the community colleges, all these, they form very strong bond to produce the outcome in terms of leading research areas. If as an institution, as university, we have these multi-aspect or multi-dimensioned viewpoint of partnership, I think it makes it really holistic. It makes it more complete as an ecosystem. And that's where we would like to start our panel discussion on fostering. Our panel discussion is on public-private partnerships in research capacity building. And I am very delighted to welcome my fellow panelists, Professor Roop Mahajan. Yes, please come in here. Professor Mahajan is Louis A. Hester Chair in Engineering at Virginia Tech in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. Very welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Let us put our hands together to welcome Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, Vice Chancellor of IILM University. A thinker and leading psychology profession, and has been into many leadership roles in Amity University and here now at IILM University, Gurugram. Next is Dr. C. Tara Satyavati, Director of ICAR, Indian Institute of Millets Research, Hyderabad. Please join us here, ma'am. And Dr. Nihar Ranjan Biswas, Vice Chancellor of Shri Balaji Vidyapeeth, Pondicherry. Please welcome. Okay, welcome all the panelists here on this very interesting and topical discussion on public-private partnership in research and capacity building. Dr. Agarwal has also hinted on, why the capacity building and the research is so important for creating knowledge. It is not just about education, it is creating knowledge, and that is where we are here to debate, discuss, and I would like everybody to be thinking about some of these ideas. But before we go into the opening question, I just would like to go around the panels and maybe request panelists to introduce and give some opening comments, opening remarks about the future and understanding of the capacity building in research area, and what could be very briefly their thought points and viewpoints on this particular topic. We will dwell into the deeper questions in the second round. So if I can start with please hear Dr. Banerjee. Yes.
A very good morning and namaskar to everyone. I think it's a distinct pleasure and honor to be here. And I would like to mention about this particular university, the Mahindra University, a very robust and very laid out university which talks about future. So I think my compliments to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Madhuri. And this whole vision of CIPU, because when I was looking at it this morning, I was thinking, why this public-private divide, and we call it progressive universities. So this is just a thought, an early morning thought. Professor Kashyap, thank you for the introduction. I would like to start, I'm a die-hard optimist, and if you read my books, that's what you'll get. But I was remembering Thomas Jefferson's when he said, I like the flavor of the future rather than the history of the past. While history is important, and that's where India is today, and having the democratic dividend, the young nation, we have our own challenges. I was looking at 2019 pre-pandemic era. I was in a very elite conference. It was sponsored by the World Bank in Washington, D.C., where we spoke on the skill gap of nations across. So we had representatives from more than 40 countries. And one of the biggest challenges which we thought at that time, and all of the papers that came out with, was definitely on the capacity building. So which meant not just, the infrastructure, but the complete ecosystem. Bang on 2020, when we saw the COVID taking over us, our lives, the pandemic after 100 years, we did see a lot of flexibility. People started accepting each other, so industries came together. So I think that's the time also our new education policy came in. So I feel that if in letter and spirit, we come together, and this is now quite realized by the industry. That's I work very closely with a lot of industry. And I'm also happy to say that in one of the AI institutions, which was one of the first institutions that I serve on their board, and more than they learn from the education, we are learning where the world is moving. So on one side, there would be technology, definitely, the fast pace of technology. And the other side, we have to take the youth along. Because when ideation comes, it is not just the experience and the knowledge that is required, but it is also about the future. So I really equate one more minute on what Professor Sitaraman yesterday said, and of course Professor Anil Hester talked about the entrepreneurship culture. I think that is needed. We saw very recently a young boy from Assam straight away landed up in Silicon Valley because of the tech-enabled environment that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Banerjee, for your opening remarks. Same question to Dr. Roop Mahajan as well, and just set the context and importance of partnership in research and capacity building from his own experience in Virginia Tech, please.
Well, first of all, I want to resonate with Dr. Banerjee about everything that MU is doing, and definitely, Judge, thank you very much for your leadership. But when it comes to the research capacity building, I think I want to talk about that a little bit. And I'll start with examples from my own 53 years in the United States. So this is my third incarnation there. When I went there, I went to Cornell. And when I joined, my advisor, he said, I'm going on sabbatical find out what I have done in 154 papers I have written. He was number one in the field, in the whole world. And he said, find out what I haven't done, and that's what you do for your PhD. That allows you to some critical thinking. And then he said, later on when I became a little bold, I asked him, so what is your role, sir? I'm doing all the paperwork. You just review the paper and sign it. He said, you really don't know. I give you a long rope to hang yourself, but as soon as you go to the cliff, I will pull you back. So I think that allowed us critical thinking. So if we want to think of building research capacity, we have to allow our students, the next generation of young leaders, to think critically. Road is there, but I think thinking critically is very important. Then I went to Bell Labs. So at Cornell, it was, my topic, PhD topic was mechanical engineers. Why does the flow become turbulent, from laminar to turbulent? And they said, if you don't have a comma anyway in it, you can't do it. They didn't want me to restrict to better heat exchanger designs. Okay, so that was their DNA. Then I went to Bell Labs and I found, boy, those problems were relatively much easier. The one that we were doing at Cornell, boundary conditions were well defined. When I went to industry, I found the problems were very complex. Okay? And they were from real life, and that actually offered us some difficult problems. So I had to go from a pure academic research into working for industry, which happened to be one of the premier labs in that country. I mean, I was complaining yesterday and I was telling somebody, how come Bell Labs we produce 11 Nobel Prize winners. And as a country, we haven't produced that many Nobel Prize winners. So what was it about Bell Labs in terms of research capacity building? So we were very fond of outliers. If there was any data point which was not conforming to the linear or whatever the underlying theory told you, we wanted to pursue that. So, that's how Arno Penzias got his Nobel Prize in Big Bang Theory. That's another story. I can take probably 20 minutes on that one, right? So focusing on the outlier, when you talk about the innovation, so when I was very fortunate, I became Bell Labs Fellow in the history of Bell Labs in the shortest period of time. So typically you go from member technical staff to distinguished member technical staff, then to fellow. I missed the distinguished member technical staff. So there, I was very fortunate, as I said. I could ask not the Nobel Prize winners, but most of the other people, what will make you unemployable in 7 years? That kind of query, and I'm sure at Harvard you do this, that kind of query really pulls you into the innovation. So when I came in my third incarnation, after Bell Labs, I went to University of Colorado, and I'll come back to that later. But when I came back from University of Colorado to Virginia Tech, I was the first executive director of an Institute for Critical Technology and Applied Science. Going back to what you were saying earlier about the multidisciplinarity, we have to make a distinction between multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, and transdisciplinarity. I'm not too fond of Dr. Agarwal or the multidisciplinarity. People come, they write a proposal together, then they go back to their cubby holes and do what they were doing before, right? Interdisciplinarity means you come together, you learn from each other. Transdisciplinarity means when all the disciplines lose their original meaning, right? So when you work with the industry, talking about the industry-public partnership, you learn that they really don't care whether you are a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer. They want the problem to be solved, okay? Whatever it takes to solve the problem, solve it. So that's what happens in the capacity building. So I'll come back to later when we go to the second round. But my whole life in the United States, it has been a story of public-private partnership. Without that, I got $100 million plus from the federal government for conducting my research, but a good deal of that came from industry. So we'll talk about that later. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Mahajan. It's very important to have that critical thinking. And I have got very briefly little story to share from my own experience. I was in Ulster University in Belfast doing my own PhD. And transitioning from a public servant into a PhD scholar was very difficult, first of all. That was one thing to admit. And second was that the rigor was quite high when we compare with our own ecosystem. At one point in time, I really got a bad sore back. And it was sort of I went to the GP, local general practitioner as well. They couldn't find anything, but it was that pain which really comes from the rigor and the stress and all that, when you are really into the PhD research. Next week, I had my PhD supervisor meeting, and we had really good discussion. And at the end of that, my PhD supervisor said, "Oh, I can see PhD now in this topic." And next day my pain was gone. So that was really something, a dose of relief, and that's where the critical thinking and rigor comes, and I still can relate that. Thank you, sir. Now over to Dr. C. Tara Satyavati, Director of ICAR, Indian Institute of Millet Research in Hyderabad, to give opening remarks and your thoughts on partnerships. You might be working with so many partnerships in this practical area of millet research. Yeah, over to you, please.
A very good morning to you all. First of all, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be one amongst you on this dais and share my views. If I look around, I'm one with a different discipline background. Someone from higher education, someone from engineering, someone from medicine. So I'm from agriculture. And I feel very proud to be coming from agriculture. So to start with, one should have and one should own the profession they are in. And number two, when you're talking of research partnership with industry, so there are many aspects the industry is working and the research institutes are working. For example, in my case, where I'm dealing with millets, if you see in the agriculture scenario itself, almost all the people in this country depend upon rice and wheat. Now the change has come and millets are being brought into the mainstream and people are trying themselves to incorporate millets into their diets. Now the challenge is how to bring back these millets into the common man's diet. There are many issues with these millets and we look into each and every aspect and then we are working relentlessly. So when we are talking of industry into this research partnership, first, the industry has certain issues where they want to address. We have constant meetings with different industry partners, and then we decide upon small activities to be taken up in the partnership mode. And we have come up with a number of startups, and we have incubated more than 500 plus startups through our technology business incubation unit. And this happened with the constant support from the research side. That means how we have done it is, we have taken these bits of problems and then we try to start working in the research mode, in project mode, small projects, and then we try to address these issues. Now the same thing can be done by the industry as well, but all the industry people may not be having the thorough R&D setup. And also the information, the background of all these millets and the related issues are not available ready with everyone. So as a research institute, we had the knowledge. That's what knowledge sharing has to happen. And the research institute also has to be open to invite the private and discuss and be open that we have done. And today we have more than 80 plus technologies that have been commercialized and are being taken up by the industry. And as every individual, like any other student, I also graduated from a small agriculture college and then went to university, and then similar kinds of experience that have been shared by my co-panelists. We also had certain issues, how to take up the research problem and then how to take it up, pursue it, what are the hurdles we are facing. All these things, the more we put the student into a turbulent situation, not to harass them, but to put them in a situation and force them to think, that is where the ideation starts, and then that is where the student thinks to mold and also thinks of innovative things that he can put and see whether they are workable or not. Once he gets the confidence, they will be able to act upon, and these small steps of confident movement forward will help in coming up with innovations, and these will be the practical solutions. Maybe a smaller thing or a little one, but these are the ones which are going to help in scaling up the technologies. So that's what I would like to say, Ram.
you. And the same question to Dr. Biswas as well. Opening comments and your take on public-private partnership in research capacity building for the educational institutions.
Thank you, Dr. Kashyap, and all present here. Thank you very much, CIPU, mainly Mr. Karthik and Akshay, all inviting me here. I think I am odd man out. I am neither from engineering background nor from management. I have zero knowledge of engineering. Only I worked 30 years in All India Institute of Medical Science, New Delhi. I have some friends in IIT Delhi. So I used to go there for some picnic or something like that, but not learning engineering. I am basically a medical teacher. 30 years I taught in AIMS. And now, after retirement, I am working as a Vice Chancellor, Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth in Pondicherry. Now, coming to the question about this public-private partnership and our research capacity building, I was listening, Dr. Agarwal, your lecture, and as you told, by coming few years, our Prime Minister vision that by 2047, India should be a developed country. Our GER should be at least 50%. Though fortunately in the south already it reached. I am for the last 2 years visiting many places around Chennai, but unfortunately in the north still it is far behind. But an average if it is to be coming to 50%, we have to. You told that we must exercise ODL, that open distance learning. But in the process, you also put a challenge that quality. Because when during Corona time we used to take classes to undergraduate and online class, we don't know how much they have learned. But there is no way of getting feedback from them. As in the class, like I am looking around say 100 people here, how many are listening my talk? How many are distracting with other mobile and other thing? When eye-to-eye contact is there, that is the beauty of the physical class. But there is no way, if we have to increase the number, we have to find some alternative, but simultaneously we have to find the ways how we can maintain the quality. And without that, it will be, number will be there, but again that quality will be compromised. So what I feel about the PPP, this, and we have to do it because there is no other way, because as I have seen, government has very limitation. Government college, whatever, engineering college, few IITs there, few IIM there, but private institute must have to come forward and we must have to work together. Then only we will get the desired results. So in that context, so PPP collaboration bring together more research, because private partner will put funds for the government or other institute, or enhance this research funding is very important, and particularly diversified funding stream is important, getting corporate sponsorships or say philanthropy contribution, as Dr. Agarwal told, and so this boosting innovation and commercialization, as Madam told that about this technology transfer. We have our patent office and technology transfer office. We are contacted with NRDC in Delhi. So whatever we are developing our products, because ours is a health university, apart from medical, there is dental and there is pharmaceutics, pharmacy, and these dental people, they are making say dental chair and other things innovative way. And we are getting patent, and after patenting the technology transfer, that's why it is going to the society. Ultimately, any research, unless it go to the society, it has no meaning. Research for the sake of research, pure research is there, of course, making, say, like Newton's law, like Archimedes' principle, then we get a lot of, but that is also important. And but we have to promote both pure research as well as this applied research. So technology transfer is important. And finally, capacity building and skill development, because there are a lot of, we have now a skill ministry also. And skill development is a must, because unless only theoretical knowledge has no meaning unless they are skilled. In the global picture, they will not be employable. So along with the theory knowledge, they have to have the skill. Like in our medical science, you may have no, you know the knowledge of the body, but unless you go to the patient and treat with your skill, so you cannot improve it. So like in surgery or in diagnostic, whatever, skill is very much important. So this skill development, boosting innovation and commercialization, so both public and private should come together. So simultaneously, infrastructure development. There are so many examples in Tata and other things. They have done excellent job. And this global collaboration is also important. So if we want to be a global citizen, or our students should go abroad, and so global collaboration and networking is also important. So PPP can help in that way. And so this national and societal challenge, to address that, we have to come together, PPP. And finally, this entrepreneurship and this ecosystem, fostering entrepreneurship, mentorship, and resource mobilization. With all this area, this PPP is important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Biswas. You touched upon some examples of skills and gave example of Tata. I'd like to turn my attention towards Dr. Roop Mahajan to pick up some other globally renowned successful examples of PPP or collaborations which have successfully delivered research capacity building in India or globally, sir, from your own experience and from your own, so much of involvement into these partnerships. Let us hear from you, what are those, some of these successful examples?
Yeah. Thank you, Anil. As I mentioned earlier, after Bell Labs, most of my life in academia, which is about 33 years now, most of the research has been funded by PPPs. When I went to University of Colorado Boulder, so there is something that we really need to emulate in India if we want to really get into that. And to be honest, I'm not sure whether we already have it. That is the NSF, National Science Foundation, Industry University Cooperative Research Center. Okay. So for example, what NSF does, it will say, it is really absolutely important we look into this. We have 53 such centers in the country. Each center has to have at a minimum of 2 universities. We are talking about the collaboration among the universities. So initially it used to be 1 university, then they changed it to at least 2 universities. So that means whether they are public universities or they are private universities, they have to collaborate. And collectively, they will solve some problem which is dictated by the industry. So what NSF does, it provides a forum. They pay very small amount of money, $100,000. But what they ask the universities for the industrial money to be overhead free. For example, at Virginia Tech, it is 60%. So whatever money we bring in, 60% goes to the overhead. So they say, okay, as far as the industry money is concerned, that will be used in its full. So we had a center, Industry University Cooperative Research Center from NSF, where we are looking at, the center's name was Camp Mode, in terms of giving examples. Center for Advanced Manufacturing and Packaging of Microwave, Optical, and Digital Electronics. So one of the requirements is that you must have something like 8 to 10 companies per university. So for example, I had TRW, IBM, Tata, Lucent, Sun Microsystem, TI, you name any. So what they do is, and if we don't have it, we need to follow this up. So the industry pays $50,000 per year to become member. So just imagine we have 20 companies with 2 universities, that's $1 million. As far as NSF is concerned, they pay lousy $100,000, right? But this $1 million overhead free, then the faculty say, okay, these are the problems that you have defined. So industry gives a list of problems. So from list of problems, universities professors say, we can do these. Then the industry advisory board, it's an industry advisory board. They find out which are the problems that they really want to prioritize, and they start a funding. Last example in this one, this has been very, very successful. As I said, there are 53 such ones. The last one is ERC from University Cooperative Research Center. You go to Engineering Research Center. As far as engineering is concerned, that's absolutely the price. Because NSF then gives you $50 million. And they expect you to get $50 million from industry. So that's $100 million. And the project has to be forward-looking. It cannot be an incremental advance on what we are doing. And on top of that, and I really want to share this with you, on top of that, if you are not able to explain what the heck you are doing in one sentence, they won't fund it. So I went with a proposal like that, and I said, Patterson, I know you well, so what do you think of this? She said, can you explain it in one sentence, what you are doing? We were developing optical computing systems. So I said, give me 24 hours. So next day I went there, I said, we are going to replace electrons with photons. That's it. If you have printing wiring board, you have all the electrons going through the copper wires, we are going to use the photon. That means we'll be moving at the speed of light. No thermal losses, none of the I square losses. So she said, given. That's $100 million for one sentence, right? So those are the mechanisms in the United States in answer to your question. But I really think the Industry University Cooperative Research Center, even with DST or whatever is our funding agency, even if they don't come together, they don't even perform the platform thing. But I think if the companies and the universities, Mahindra University, let's say, IIT Hyderabad, if they can come together and they say, these are the problems, and we need to have an industry advisory board, they will tell us what the problems are and what are our strengths consistent with that, and they have to become members. They have to, unless they pay some money per year, they really are not key partners. Whether it is 10 lakh rupees or 5 lakh rupees, I don't care. But they should actually be paying partners. And then what happens is our students, they work with them as interns, and they become the future employees of that company. So out of all this industry university cooperative, the last one, just 1 second. Yeah. So this as an example is very important, and I hope some of you can actually do that, because I would be glad to collaborate with you on this one. So we have some similar center called CENTIRE, Center for Tires. All we do is only research on tires. And we have a lot of tire companies, a lot of auto companies, they are part of that. Right? So suddenly they found that most of the tires, they use something called 6-PPD. It's some kind of a polymer. It's the binding material that we use in the tires. Well, it diffuses from inside the tire to the outside of the tire. And when it does that, it is now coming into contact with the oxygen or ozone, and it forms 6-PPD quinone. That happens to be very toxic. 90% of the coho salmon or salmon, coho salmon, they got destroyed in California. So then, actually industry knew some of that, but unless an academic, you talk about the role of academia, they came out and laid out the whole mechanism. Why is it happening? How it happens? So then the governor of California he said, my dear industry, you have only 1 year. If you can't solve this problem, I will not allow any car with these tires to run on the California highways. Now that's a big problem. So there was a panic. What did they do? They come to Send Tire. They said, can you help us this problem? Well, fortunately, we have been working on, I had developed a technology to convert coal to graphene. And it turns out, we are patenting it, and we are actually transferring it to Thapar, to Virginia Tech India, we have in Chennai, hopefully also at Mahindra University. It turns out coal-derived graphene oxide, in our preliminary results, it says we can replace 6 ppd. Our initial results are 80% as effective, and we are pretty confident. So what happened with NSF? They took our those results and they put it in chemical engineering progress. 1 pager, and they said, this is a breakthrough technology, everybody should read it and they should get into it. So that's how industry and universities can come together. And the industry can provide the real worldview. Boundary conditions are not well defined. And I think if we can get into that mode, I don't know whether we have DST, IUCRC, but if we don't have it, this will be something I can help. I had 2 centers back in Colorado. We had 5 centers in Virginia Tech. I am also part of the ERC. I got that ERC. And for example, our Center for Power Systems, ERC, we have 110 industry who are members of that. So they're paying $50,000 every year without any problem. So their money gets leveraged. One company pays $50,000. There are 20 companies. They're getting the benefit of research of $1 million. A factor of 1 to 20. You are talking about the return on investment. There's nothing more than, when they were talking to me, this is the last one. As I mentioned, over the years, I've been very fortunate. We got $100 million plus from NSF and other funding agencies. So they are getting the benefit of the academia. They are getting the benefit of my $100+ million research that I've done. So not only that their money gets leveraged, but they're also getting just the benefit of the faculty who have been getting lots of money from the industry. So I think we really need to bring the industry and the universities together. I would definitely, if it is DST, if they don't have it, I will strongly suggest that we do it, and I'll be glad to provide any help that you need.
Thank you, Dr. Mahajan. And just to add, I think this is real thing here, that industry comes up with certain problems, and it has got a couple of advantages as well. The advantage is that the research is more focused right from the day one. That you start doing the work, it is very, very focused. It is not in the air. It is not fluid. You are working on a definite problem. And also the timeline of that problem is very defined, because this has been to be delivered and it has been demanded by the industry. And I'll add, before I move to Dr. Satyavati, who wants to add certain examples as well, I'll give 2 examples of my own experience. At Ulster University, we formed in 2010 a partnership between Harvard and Ulster Real Estate Initiative, because lots of Northern Ireland developers were facing problems of planning and property development and some bottlenecks. So about 15 developers came forward, and they put in about £100,000 to fund 10 PhDs every year on the topics and the pain points of that industry. And that started with all those topics given to the prospective PhD students. They started working, and that only 3-year time was given. Funding was provided by the industry. And second example is in Northern Ireland, there is a large pharmaceutical company. They pledged 5 billion sterling pounds into research for next 15 years, and they pledged that. They announced that in sort of a big partnership meeting. But every year, about 5 to 10 PhDs were to be funded by that pharmaceutical company in the Department of Medicine and Pharmacy, and they were successfully running. And I think it's 15 years now from that partnership. It is going very strong, and lots of research has come up through those partnerships. Those are real, contribution into the partnership. So, Dr. Satyavati, from your experience, are there any good examples before I move on to other panels as well? Please share those examples of successful partnerships.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Kashyap. In continuation to what Dr. Roop Mahajan mentioned, in agriculture also we have certain issues. Like you mentioned about the industry issues. Here also we have the industry, private companies, where they need certain specific genotypes that would fit into those specific agroecologies. Their R&D may not be having that kind of material. So they come up with their product profiles that this is the genotype, this is the type of material I want. So we breed for them and then we give them. For this, they sometimes fund the research or we take the license fee, give the technology to them. And during this transfer of technology, what we do is we don't go for exclusive license. We go for non-exclusive license so that that benefit is taken by number of companies. Number two, the money which we get from these kind of collaborative activities, we make a corpus fund in the institute, and that will be used for specific activities that are being research is being done for those activities, and that money will be diverted for that, so that there is a non-stop research funding, continuous flow of funds for that activity. And there are many takers because in that field, many takers will be there. And so we prepare ourselves and our students to be ready for the market, for the industry. Now, there are other issues also, like if I talk about millets, here millets are gluten-free foods. I am not just going into science, all of you would eat rotis. You get, when you try to roll out the chapati dough, it rolls out very smoothly from wheat, but in millets it does not happen. And also when people try to make cookies or biscuits, because of absence of this gluten, people cannot make millet biscuits or millet cookies. So we have certain issue. So what we have done is we try to address this issue through alteration of the starch metabolism. We try to include some other things which are again plant-based, and then we try to come up with the technology. So during this process, we have few industry partners joining our hands. Collaborating means they have given some fund and we also have worked together. And today we have a number of technologies, cookie technologies, which are being taken up by the industry. Number three, also the seed production is an issue. Development of the parental lines is an issue. Not all the companies will have this technology and this material. Again, sharing of this information, sharing of the material, we do on public-private partnership mode. And one more thing, in one CG institute, they have this hybrid parent research consortium, wherein the companies per year, they pay minimum 15 lakhs, and then they become member of that. Through this, if you have some 20 companies joining it with 15 lakhs per year each, that means you have sufficient amount of fund in your hand, and you can again plow it back and do some research and provide them the kind of material they're interested for. So these things happen in agriculture as well. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you. Dr. Biswas, yes, please, your examples. And I'll then finish with Dr.
Not my example, whatever the example.
Yes.
Some real life examples like Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and this Tata Group, they combine together and they have long time partnerships going on and commitment to innovation, shared resource. Another example like this IIT Mumbai and IBM research. They also did some skill development training and research in the real world application, and the joint research centers are coming on there. Similarly, in global, as Dr. Mahajan has told that MIT and the Draper Lab. So you might have known. So they are space and aerospace research. They are doing excellent jobs, and as well as in healthcare innovation also they are doing. So this cross-sectional collaboration is a must. Without that, we cannot proceed innovation and then policy support, etc. And finally, the University of California, Berkeley, as well as this Google, And this, we are using the fruit of that. So access to this cutting edge technology, incentivization, entrepreneurships, mutual benefit. So this Google School program, so this all comes from PPP. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
thank you. Dr. Banerjee, your take on that. Turn that on.
Hello. Yeah, I think a lot of very interesting concepts have been shared and some very important data points. I just want to add on this that one of the projects that was undertaken was on preventable blindness. What happens is in India, if you see the world, the data, India is one of the countries who is actually suffering from preventable blindness, which means only two things. Cataract, it can be eradicated either through cataract or refractive, which means a pair of glasses. So I think tying up with a lot of companies who are making spectacles, plus actually doing a hardcore data through the lot of sub-urban areas. This was done in the state of Haryana, and what was seen that the awareness was not there. So I think we brought in Policymaker, Public Health Foundation of India, lot of companies which were actually making these spectacles, and the research people. So it is a very important area. Maybe Dr. Biswas will look at it from the healthcare perspective. The second area which I really wanted to emphasize, since it's a great audience that we have, is on the, also one of the bigger areas that is happening is on the mental health. I think the awareness is slowly coming. I think people have started accepting it, and the big crisis is it's happening in the very young population today. So when you look at mental health screening camps, and it is not only in the urban population, it is going into the rural areas. So as universities setting up proper clinics, centers to set up, not only do research, but also how to aid, because most of the mental health problems are above the threshold, which means they may not be having psychotic problems, but the common mental health issues of anxiety, depression, which is coming in a very big way. And that actually fogs the mind of the people in doing any other technology or work. So these are the two thoughts I have to share on this perspective, that a lot of research companies can come together. We can use a lot of AI analytics to actually aid in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. And hold on to the mic, Dr. Banerjee, coming just on to you as well. So we have seen lots of benefits of these partnerships in getting the cutting edge research on board. But the other players within this ecosystem are the faculty and the researchers. I'm coming to this question here, that what benefit you think do faculty and researchers gain out of these partnership and their career development and academic growth, and how we can motivate, because they are the catalyst, they are the real doers, along with other academic engagements and the teaching commitments and all. Unless we daylight some of these benefits to the faculty and researchers, the outcome would be not as desirable. From your experience, Dr. Banerjee, if you can share with us that what those benefits are and how we can sell these to our faculty in terms of taking those partnership and research.
It's a really deep dive question, but I want to just start by saying that I started as a researcher in the University of Delhi Center for Science Education and Communication. So I can tell you that that mindset, that when you start as a researcher, it suddenly takes you to a very large platform, and you're actually interacting with the think tanks, the policymakers. So within universities, if you bring in good researchers with, of course, stipends and scholarships that you can provide, and they work on the niche areas. I completely agree with Dr. Mahajan when he said there has to be a deep dive in certain areas, not just do a superficial multidisciplinary in that sense. But what happens is they get a huge opportunity, for example, through fellowship. I think that is one of the way education is serving in diplomacy, where through international scholarships students get opportunity to travel abroad, go to the best labs, for example, the engineering students going to Germany. Similarly, the young faculty members, I think, a very unique initiative which yesterday Professor Anil Hester spoke about, the Malviya Mission Teachers Training. As I speak, in fact, my university is holding it right now with another college in, say, Hansraj College, Delhi University. So what is happening is, how do you help people improve their competencies and skills and acquire new knowledge. So be it AI, be it the new education policy, be it the new thrust areas, be it understanding what millet can do. The other very important thing that I think research is doing is collaboration. So when they are working in the public labs and even a lot of scholars come from these public institutions and research institutions to do PhD program, they are doing a lot of specialized research. So that also is an enabler for good collaboration that happens between the universities, the institution and government at large. And I must put on record the funding agencies like DBT, DST, they have really funded. Here I do not have I do not remember where if it is a good proposal, it doesn't get rejected. And finally, on the European Union projects, where you get 5 institutions in India and 5 abroad working together. I remember completing a project on e-learning. That went out so well because you had 5 European universities sharing the best practices. You had 5 different universities within India working together. So I think it has a very monumental impact it's going to have. And it's also really focusing on the future. So there definitely the global goals come in a very big way. That the impact that you can create through bringing in people so they are more aware what kind of decisions they are taking. It is going to contribute in a big way. Thank you.
And same to Dr. Roop Mahajan as well. Sir, in your research centers, you would have nurtured so many young researchers and faculty. Share some examples of their academic and career growth stories where they have excelled, and that should motivate some of the audience researchers and the leaders here to do something, what you have been doing there in US.
Thank you, Anil. So to put it in perspective, just in the College of Engineering at Virginia Tech, again, I'm going back to Virginia Tech all the time, but we get about $250 million in research per year from funding agencies. So we have 400 faculty. So that means about $600,000 per year. Now the NSF IUCRC, everybody actually wants to be a member of that center. Although they provide only lousy, I shouldn't say that, $70,000 per year for 3 years. But imagine the goal is $600,000 per year. So from 70, how do you go to 600? So this becomes a larger platform, as you said, where we can have the industry, we have other universities. And the important thing is that when you have industry people from different backgrounds, you have other universities, when you bring them together, buds of creativity blossom at the intersections. Okay? You come up with new ideas. And you can take those new ideas and now write another proposal to get another money from NSF or DST. So the goal of all these people in this industry university cooperative research centers is to go for that other plum prize that I mentioned, which is $50 million. So even in the CENTIRE that I mentioned, Center for Tires, we are right now going for that ERC, Engineering Research Center from NSF. And in my own work from that, my Suman Jajaria, she's working with me as a scientist. So she is looking at another $124 million proposal. Now, I'm really sorry, we talk about a lot of money, but that's just a different thing. Even on the lower scale, we can do that in India, right? So the last point I want to mention is that as far as the faculty development is concerned, they look at IUCRC as a platform, as a step to the next big thing that they want to do. And many times they get these ideas, they form actually deep contacts with the industry, and they have a one-on-one relationship with the industry to solve a problem. Right? So I won't delve into many more examples, but the last point I want to mention is that NSF has now decided that if India, any other foreign country, wants to become a satellite center of IUCRC, they can become. As long as they bring their 10 companies together and they say, we have 10 companies, we're exactly the same that you expect. We may not ask for $50,000. They will ask for some equivalent sum of money, maybe 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, whatever it is. But as long as you have 10 industry members who are participating and they agree to a non-exclusive agreement early on, then you can become a member of, for example, Centire. So if anybody who's working in the auto, and if they want to become a NSF IUCRC center here, we can get you in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Since the discussion is on research and researchers, I have one personal reflection on that, and perhaps somebody who is in decision making and at UGC or at that level should listen to something like that. When you have a young researcher, they start with the postdoc role, and then they go on to the research associate or senior research fellow or research fellow roles, because they are really genuinely interested into conducting the research. But when it comes to the faculty conversion, there is a direct route of that researcher or a senior research fellow who has been working for 10 years into a particular research area to get onto a professorial role. And this has been very common in England and UK universities, where a good well-published senior research fellow is promoted or given a professorial or a chair role. I think this is something is missing here in our system. In not many universities, particularly private university, they can't do, because this governed by UGC. Some autonomous institution, they can perhaps do certain things, but I think this is very important in order to foster researchers in this country. So that should be some change in policy, and in that is required. So, Dr. Satyavati, you wanted to add a couple of examples of how this can add to research and career growth of your researchers.
Again, I'll take back to the example of millets. Because of the international era of millets, a large amount of traction has been created about millets. So many countries have come forward to take this knowledge from us. And they have come forward to make MOUs and also bring their students and take our faculty to their institutions in their countries. So this way, partnership, not only with the industries across the countries, also help and gives a platform to the researchers, especially when we have to send our people to other countries. We would like it to see that who are the people who will be able to perform there. We don't send any XYZ who are just based on the seniority. We see only those performers who are going to do and keep the reputation of the institute and the country. So this again creates a small sort of competition and also prepare them to be very competitive, and this gives an opportunity for them to have an international exposure. And moreover, when we work together with certain companies also, because of their presence like MNCs, they also provide opportunities for our young researchers and students to go to those countries and give them an international exposure. So working together with public and private institutions and other countries gives a platform and an opportunity for the young researchers to grow and build their career, and also opens up many economic opportunities. So this is a welcome thing, and it has been in place in some of our research institutions.
Thank you. 30 seconds, Dr. Biswas, we want to go to question answers. If you want to add something, what other panelists have missed out in terms of benefits, what faculty and researchers gain from these partnerships.
Yeah, excellent. You see, tell 5 or 6 points, like when it will happen, so the public funding and then private, so there is a cutting edge resource and technology, they are coming together, as well as say funding and grant opportunities. Finally, the career advancement and recognition, when there will be global competitiveness and global working together, so applied research, collaborative research, interdisciplinary learning, and jobs market opportunity. This person, they can get connection, networking with the international agencies, and they get multifaceted environmental career growth. So these are basically through this PPP the student can get.
Thank you. I think panelists have added quite a lot, and it is now open the floor for questions. If you can, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. And if you have the question directed to one of the panelists, please specify. Let me, Dr. Sheshadri, yes.
As our Chancellor has proposed, is a person who has started his career directly BTech and completes his MTech and PhD without break. And when he come to the job, he is starting his career as an assistant professor. That service is not count. As our Director General Sir and our Chancellor has proposed. Now this forum should recommend to the UGC or the any body to consider the service of the research service and place him in the professor role or associate professor role. This point I strongly support my Chancellor's recommendation. Because the person who is spending nearly 10 years on research and starting from scratch as assistant professor, associate professor, this is losing his the complete the whatever the expertise he has earned. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you for this panel discussion. It was really very insightful. My question is to Dr. Tara ma'am. Ma'am, as you have told during this discussion that your institution has got more than 500 startups. The students and faculty are involved in the research as well. Since I have worked as a Dean Academics and IQSU coordinator, I would like to ask you one ground level question. Maintaining SFR, then adjustment of the academic as well as admin load that has been given to the faculty. So how you have managed this?
See, we are not an educational institute. We are a research institute. What we do is the students we get from different agriculture universities or traditional universities where we have some MOUs to have the students do the research work with us. So through that, we take the students and then we put them on different aspects of the problems there where we have to work. So if suppose I have to work on some starch issue, then I'll take the people who are coming from food technology background or biochemistry background, and then we put those students on that job. And our scientists also will be there to monitor and also guide them. So this way it is a win-win situation that we are getting the students for research help and we are giving them provision and support to work with, because many of the universities are not having that good infrastructure for R&D. So we have that facility and that we are extending. The student is getting the degree and they're also being connected to the industry for on which problem they are working on. So this way all of the people who are involved in it are benefited. That's how we are doing it. And for the startups also, when they try to have their own startup and come up with their own products, again identifying the product, then coming up with the design and then launching it in the market. Then you have many issues like packaging, the quantity, the production, the scaling up, many things will be there. So we have our one unit where they try to handhold those incubators with us, and then we see that till they launch the product and they're confident to take up on their own for scaling it up, we help them. And we do charge some fees for that, but in this process also we involve the faculty, that is the scientists, the students and the people who are there in that particular unit. That is how we take it up.
Thank you, ma'am. You have given the answer
Dr.
for my
Banerjee, you wanted to add something? Yeah.
I was just wanting to add one important parameter that we discussed about funding. because that's one thing that private universities have to look at, because you don't get any subsidy, nothing, everything you're running. So long back, Indian government has also talked about the CSR. But if you look at the justification, even state-wise, how CSR funds are being utilized, I think such a forum like CIPU and others, we should really have a voice about whatever little amount. I'm not saying that entire industry comes like what they're doing for Virginia Tech in such big funds, but I think it is would be very necessarily to have a dialogue with the industry, because typically we are connecting with the industry primarily for either placement or for some kind of a joint project. We are solving their problems. Why don't we look at this? And since so many good universities are together, I think we can do some discussions and see how we can utilize the CSR funds which is already available. Thank you.
I can see a couple of hands. Let's maybe looking at the time as well. Couple of questions here. One here. Introduce yourself and very briefly direct your question to.
Good morning. I am Dr. Gaur, Vice Chancellor, Dr. C.B. Raman University, Bihar. First of all, I thank CIPU and MU and endorsing the Dr. Tara. You have included agriculture in this sense. It's a really wonderful thing. I am also from agriculture, 40 years in ICR and SAV system. Okay, question is that PPP, this is not being exactly executed. My experience says public don't talks with the private sectors, universities. Private universities don't talk with the public, they don't allow. And pupil don't talk each of one. They have their own system. So in the changed ecosystem, the changed system of R&D in university system, where the traditional knowledge, the grassroots knowledge, the traditional wisdom has to be clubbed in the university system. What do you think, how the universities, private universities, which are located in tier 2, tier 3 cities, away from the capitals, that they are starving for many situations, how they can have better partnerships, better fund sources, better connectivity with the global and national potential fund providers. This is my worry and question also. Thank you very much.
You'll get that. Yes.
So actually, it's very similar to what we, again, going back to the US. For example, if we were submitting a proposal for that ERC, then actually NSF requires that you include some partners, which may be what you call tier 2 or tier 3 industry. So we have to put some mechanism in place where we say the so-called top universities or what you call tier 1, that when they apply for these big grants, they have to, number one, get the industry, and number two, one of the tier 2 or tier 3 universities. So I think we have to place some mechanisms in place at the central level to bring the total intellect available in the country to solve some of the major problems in the country. I mean, there is no dearth of problems in this, honestly. I mean, there are so many underserved people, and we can take many of their problems and solve them. And for that, we need everybody, tier 2, tier 3, it doesn't matter. But we need to have a mechanism in place at the central level so that it will require them, the top universities, to work with the smaller companies.
Thank you. Dr. Shirure, yes.
My question is to Dr. Madam. Since yours is a research focus, particularly Indian economy is a background, and particularly there are 4 states where you can find out the sugar industry plays a very pivotal role. Now, certain research already took place in respect of using byproducts of sugar industry, particularly molasses and bagasse. Now, after 2010, whether any new research in respect of using this waste apart from the chemical industry, if you have some project related with that, would you mind to just share?
Thank you for the question, but I'm really sorry I did not deal with the sugar industry or sugar cane and other byproducts. But something related to sugar thing, what we are doing, I'll mainly focus on millets because my expertise in that area. With the government policies of taking a biofuels and mixing it to 20%, extent of 20% of biofuel in the petroleum and other things, we are coming up with some technologies like sweet sorghum, which can produce biofuel. And also, we were able to take it up on a large scale. And now we have joined hands with BPCL and IPCL, such companies. And then we're taking up large scale experiments and also trying to see how much percentage recovery of bioethanol can happen from those. Such projects we are taking, but right now we are not in that discipline. For that, you may have to contact someone from Sugarcane Research Institute.
We have a tea break. Last question from the back here, please. Yes. Yeah. Finish. Oh. Yes. Okay. More.
So I'm Dr. Naveen from Vasreddy Venkatadri International Technological University, a 15-day-old university, very young. I would like to ask or get one clarification from the panel members. This is actually this is regarding public-private partnership and research capacity building. And many of the universities or colleges, engineering colleges, whatever the case may be, they are also into consultancy. I would like to just know what's the difference between this research and consultancy. You have a clear line between these two, or both exist, coexist? This is my basic question I would like to know.
I think this is the fundamental, and I can take on that.
Yes, please.
See, research is something which you are creating new knowledge, and consultancy is sort of advising on to solve some problem. Anything you want to design, design of say retaining wall or something like that given to a structured professor is a consultancy. It's not creating new knowledge. It is solving that problem or designing which is already with the help of existing knowledge. Anything you create new is research. That is thin line between research and consultancy. We always need to really bear in mind as well. Yeah, please, yes, go ahead with your question, and then one last from here, lady in the middle.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I am Dr. Harshavardhan Kalatur. I am Assistant Professor of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering here at Mahindra University. Thank you for the excellent discussion. So we've so far discussed about creating institutional mechanisms for funding research and setting up research platforms. So I would like to ask about the other side, which is to execute this vision, we need to have a steady pool of passionate, motivated researchers, that is students. That is something, at least in India, wherein doing research is not really done out of, passion or interest. It's usually the last resort. And Professor Mahajan would know this. I've lived in the US for a decade. I got my PhD from University of Wisconsin, Madison. There's a distinct difference. People do research, students, because they want to do research. Not that they don't care about the job. They do care about the job, but then the fundamental motivation is I'm doing this to learn, get knowledge, so that that'll equip myself to land a good opportunity later. That chain perhaps is missing, and what is the role of government, or how do we prepare the society to take research with the same deal of passion? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah. So I was wanting to tell you two things. One is, of course, the good policies. Primarily that when a young researcher wants to carry on research, vis-a-vis join as a faculty and get some kind of emolument. So it is also related to that, where you get not only a great infrastructure and a good boss to work a research project on, but also how attractive are those policies within India. So I think slowly, at least I can tell you in the most of the private universities, since today this forum is primarily for that, a lot of fund is being made available for quality researchers to come in. Second aspect, when you talk about creating awareness. When we say awareness, which means we shouldn't talk about research only at at the higher education. I think today research is going to the K-12 schools. If you look at out of this 1,17,000 startup, you will be amazed to see how many startups we see at a very young age. So I think somewhere research starts much early today. So I think if you look at the overall, the way the skill map has been drawn out, so from the 6th, 7th grade onwards, people are getting interested. So one of the examples, of course, I'll talk about the Zepto, for example. Such a young lad coming up with such an process where it is in quick commerce, it has really changed the world. So it's awareness. So if the awareness reaches to the rural population, I think they'll be interested. And finally, the technology. Today, technology is enabling research from remote corners. Of course, there are some manufacturing in other areas, but many of the IT-enabled technology is an enabler. But of course, it's a work in progress.
You wanted to add?
So just couple comments. Number one, as a faculty member, it is our duty to inspire students to have passion. If you can formulate your problem in a way, and I think we have been talking to some faculty here, if you can't tell in one sentence to your grandma what you're doing, then you don't have the passion behind it. I'm going to be working on a technology that will make this clean water bottle for you for 10 paisa, whatever it is. But I think you should be able to explain that. That's when the passion comes. You are really solving a big problem. Number two, I think it's not as popular here or as prevalent here. But if you look at the number of companies our students start, so they have one motive behind what they are doing in their research. Maybe I'll be able to start a company, right? And we have a SBIR program, Small Business Innovation Research. If I recall correctly, DBT started something like that. In the first phase, you can take your idea and start a company, and you are so passionate that you will get the same amount of salary that you are getting as your student. But then you have a stake in the company if it is successful. If you prove the feasibility, second phase, government gives you 10 times more money. And by the third phase, it is even more. So I think that motivation to the student that I can start a company, I'll be my own boss, that provides the passion. So in answer to your question, number one, faculty have to provide the passion by inspiring the students to do something big. And number two, we should have a culture where our students can start a lot of companies themselves.
Thank you.
So
30 seconds, last 30
So
seconds.
Mahajan sir has already mentioned, myself Vanishri from MIT, World Peace University. Sir has already mentioned the funding model in research capacity building there. Whether we are having any, funding successful or best funding model in private-public partnership in research in India, that is a question which I am asking to the panel. And second one, when you are looking into the private academia industry research, collaborations, private-public partnership in education and research and innovations, whether we are having any clear or consistent regulatory framework, whether it is required to have a quality assurance and based on the funding model. So two things, whether we are having a successful funding model which is required for the universities, to enhance the research in India, because when we are comparing, because I was very much jealous to know your experiences. Second one, what about when you are going ahead with the research project, investing this much, what about the clear and consistent regulatory model between the two parties? That's all. Thank you.
That's it.
Changes in overall India. China, $15 trillion, $18 trillion economy, we are still 4 trillion. And second thing, now because the whole world is trying to diversify their supplies away from China, now the opportunity. With my 25 years in the Indian Navy, defense technology, 15 years corporate, TCS vice president, etc., and last 3 universities vice chancellor, I want to tell you, we all know Government of India's PLI has been very successful. What is PLI? Production linked incentive. I want to suggest there should be similarly, because unless you can see money at once, for example, defense technology, when my product will come out, when it will be successful, nobody knows. But if the government gives me research linked incentive, we know SCRB, if I see the money, I'll jump into it. Otherwise, 0.7% of GDP is our research budget in India. Israel 4%, 7%, China 3%, South Korea 6%. Time for a bold breakthrough approach is required in research, else we are doomed.
Yeah. Thank you. I think lots of interesting discussion. I think we can take the answer during the break time. It's time to, first of all, say thank you to all panelists for really insightful knowledge and thoughts shared with the audience, and then wonderful audience as well for an hour plus session. So very many thank you to all of you, and we can close this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, distinguished panelists. Lots of insights, lots of food for thoughts, and loaded with information. It's time to felicitate our distinguished panelists. I would like to request Professor Gopal Pathak, Honorary President, CIPU, and also Professor G.K. Shirude, Honorary Vice President, CIPU, to felicitate our team. Now I request our distinguished panelists and the felicitators for a group photo.